Dear beloved Creator within and without, we gather to acknowledge our unity and our collective purpose. We know from deep within that it is up to each of us to hold a moral and ethical line when seeing it crossed. We ask for your protection, Creator, from all hostility or roadblocks, so that our humankind can live in the abundance and the compassionate world you created. So now we are putting on the armor of God. It is you, it is me, it is us. We are the ones who are taking this on and together because it is our calling to put a halt, a full stop, and then a correction to the harm that is coming at us and especially at our children. They are the innocent ones. As their protectors, we cannot be naive or uninformed. And so we gather our spirits in your name, Creator of all that is, and so it is.
My name's Ron Vroman. I'm the old white man talking head for the Oregon Statewide Jural Assembly. I'm going to speak this afternoon about identification. We hear a lot about you have to declare your status. Are you a free man or woman on the land and soil of your state? Or are you a U.S. citizen? Are you a state national? Who are you? You have to understand that. And when you understand the de facto and the de jure, and you know who you are, and you've made your statement of who you are, and you have a living testimony in the form of an affidavit of truth properly signed by you, thumbprinted and with 2 witnesses, then you have your status in order. After you have your status in order, you have to think about your identification as far as address goes. Now, they want to put you in the box of your address. And I want to show you this. That's my license. And there's no address. My address is general delivery, and it works just fine for the United States mail. Everything that I have sent by mail, and I get stuff from the VA, and I get packages, and all of that comes to general delivery. And I go to the post office and I say, I'm here to pick up my mail for general delivery. And the Oregon Statewide Jural Assembly and our civilian court has general delivery service at the Beaverton post office, and it always works. And the beauty of it is, when you look in my wallet, you cannot determine where I live. I don't have an address in my wallet. I have that for identification in my wallet. So then you have to think about, how do you do that? So the first thing is fill out a change of address form at the post office. And it depends upon if you're changing your address or the address for the family or the address for your business or whatever it happens to be. I'm only speaking about people. You changing your address. A change of address form to general delivery at your post office. Good idea to tell them what you're doing so that they're aboard on it. And then you have your address changed. Then you go to your bank and you change your bank's address so that the bank has general delivery. And I went to the VA and every other place that I could go and gave them my new address. My new address is general delivery. Just recently, I expatriated from the de jure Oregonian status to a U.S. citizen so I can vote for Mark Thielman in the Republican primary. So I fill out the form and they want to know my address. And I tell them general delivery. And I mail the form in. I get a call back. No, I got an email back from the elections clerk saying, I have to have an address. And so I answered her back, I don't have an address. I'm a continuous traveler. My address is general delivery. And I gave her a rundown on that. And I got an email back saying, everything's fine. You're all registered. Everything's good. They try to make you give them an address, but you don't have to. So you change your address by changing your address with the post office. Then you go to the DMV and you tell the DMV, I want to have a continuous traveler's permit. I want to change my driver's license to a continuous traveler. And they change it. Not every clerk at the DMV knows how to do this. And I know that because when I went to do it, the first clerk didn't know how. And the clerk next to him said, I know how. So I just moved over a window. They told me I had to bring an envelope showing that I actually received mail on Oregon and I wasn't just a Californian trying to claim continuous traveler on Oregon. So I provided them with that information. They gave me 10 proofs that they would accept, and I gave them one. I was back in 20 minutes with it. And they did it all right there. I had a paper driver's license with continuous traveler and my general delivery address at Beaverton 97005 in 10 minutes. And then the plastic one came in the mail to general delivery. So when they arrested me at the VA and put me in a little cell because I wouldn't wear a mask, they got pissed. They took my wallet and went through my wallet completely, and there was no address in it. Nothing had my address on it because everything was general delivery. I'm a continuous traveler. And they were upset because they couldn't track me to my home. And the cops like to do that too. They want to identify you and get your address. Well, part of bringing your status up to date is making sure your paperwork is proper and in order. Continuous traveler solves that. The next one is people are putting paper plates on their cars. Anna von Ritz in her assembly is selling her driver's license and her license plates. And I don't know how that's working, but we don't sell anything and we have paper plates. If you want them, we'll give you a paper plate. Make your own copies and once a month, fill it out and paste it in the back window. And you're legitimate in the de jure. So you have to take those things into consideration. The next thing that we're dealing with is passports. Now, I tried for 18 months. I submitted my birth certificate and $125, and I did that 3 times in a row, doing everything that I possibly could or had heard about. I'm not a U.S. citizen. I don't want a U.S. citizen's passport. I sent a letter to Trump. I didn't think it'd work, but a lady in the passport division, Bobotech was her name. I gave a copy of the letter to William. He got a copy of it. He saw it. I don't think I'll ever find it again. But she said, I was contacted by the president's office, and I'm in charge of passports. And if you call this guy in Seattle, he'll take care of you. And she said that in a page and a half. And I called a guy in Seattle, and I talked to him, and he said, I don't care what anybody says or anybody tells you. I only give passports to U.S. citizens. I don't have anything to do with U.S. nationals or state nationals or anything else. I make out passports to U.S. citizens. That's all I do. And so he refused. And I got my birth certificate back and they kept $125. So I failed. One of the guys in our group, I won't give his name unless he wants to give it, uh, found a procedure. Oh, and by the way, a copper kettle or something like that, that didn't work for me either. But anyhow, William found a way, found a person, somebody had a methodology for doing it, and he did it and he got his passport. And there's another little trick that goes along with this, and I might get this a little bit wrong, but it'll be close enough. In addition to your passport, there's a passport card. Looks like a driver's license. And on the passport card, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 stars on the passport. And there's a code to the star key. What 1 star means and 2 star means you're really low on the totem pole and you'll do what you're told. And they'll tell you. And when you get 3, they're supposed to pay a little more attention to you. And when you get 4, then they're paying quite a bit more attention to you and leaving you alone. And when you get 5 stars on your passport card, you're to be considered an ambassador and do not hinder this person. Well, when he got his new passport, we had a meeting and he was there with it and his card and reading the information, and everybody was discussing this. And people started breaking out their passport cards. And one of our members had a 5-star passport card. She didn't even know anything about passport stars. She didn't know why she had 5, and she had done nothing to get 5, but she had it. So it means something. And we've seen 1, 3, and 5. I can remember seeing those. So getting your passport is a really good way to self-identify yourself and get out of the de facto into the de jure. And
mine, Ron, is 4, right?
okay,
I'm not sure what it was prior, right? Because I never. There's, you got the passport book and you got the passport card, and I ordered both of them. I've had the passport booklet, in the past, and I've seen the procedure online from a guy on YouTube. His name's James C. Lovett, and he tells you how to do it on his YouTube channel there. And I went through all that whole process. I actually paid him for the explanatory statement, passport explanatory statement that he sells. And I got that, and you fill it out per, it comes to you kind of generic. You have to change the name, it's everything highlighted in yellow needs to be changed, like your name and your state and all that kind of stuff. So I did all that. I filled all that out. I filled out my DS-11, per James C. Levitt's instructions. And then there's also in that DS-11, everybody doesn't understand it, but inside the instructions, the 3 or 4 sheets before the part of the application, there's actually a section there that you're actually supposed to circle things that apply to you. Most people don't realize that section's supposed to be filled out. And if it's not filled out, then it's assumed that you're a United States citizen when you go ahead and do this. So I fill it out per his stuff. I sent all my stuff in, and I got about my passport book and my card, and it had the 4 stars. But I don't know what the passport card would have been prior to me doing that, because I never had the card before. So it's a big question. But, you see people, if you go out there and look about it, and these are called your it says passport card on it, but people consider this your travel passport. So this would be used for, excuse me, traveling from like the state or the territory of Washington into Canada, or the California state into Tijuana or something. You can use it for that kind of travel, like ground travel. I use it. It is my only form of identification in my wallet. And going with what Ron was talking about earlier with ID, where your address, these passport booklet and cards do not have your address on them. It makes it strange to deal with if you've been dealing driver's licenses and state IDs and that kind of thing in the past, because you go to place to rent something, they want to know what's your address, and they look, you hand them your ID and there's nothing on there. They're like confused. How do I deal with this? My scenario was renting a campsite up in the Mount Hood National Forest, and she looked at me and said, well, where do you live? And then I gave her a Portland, Oregon address, for her to go by. But really, mine says place of birth, Montana. And the reality is that I can be from anywhere. And that is actually the best way to be. Because, when we're asked, well, where do you live? Well, the reality is that we live exactly where we're standing. And if the judge or the officer or whoever is there can't realize that you're alive standing in front of them, then they're actually in the wrong jurisdiction. Or they think that I'm in theirs for some reason, and I'm not. I live right here. And that's the address I'll give them. If they drag me into court and they ask me where I live, I'm going to tell them right there in the courtroom. I'm going to give them that address because that's where I live, So I think it's actually pretty cool to have these, Ron's thing's kind of weird because it's a permission to drive thing. But, with the traveling thing from the U.S. government, I think I feel freer now by doing this process. It's questionable whether the 4 stars is going to get me anywhere. I've yet to try that out and see if I get treated anything different. I've yet to be pulled over and presenting this thing to them. There'll be a few more steps before they actually get to my ID. They're going to have to fill out a public servant questionnaire first, and then we can proceed once we know what ground we stand on, and what their intent is with the forward going scenario there, and if they do fill that out properly and sign it, give me it back, I will hand them over this passport, and then we can proceed further. But some people claim that I'll never get to that point by handing them the questionnaire. I've seen videos online where they say they come back in about 5 or 10 minutes and say, okay, have a good day, and then they drive away. So, and I've yet to see it in person, but I've seen it in videos, and it looked legit to me. I don't know.
Well, it's a process.
Mindset.
Yeah, and also a process getting out of the situation. A lot of people consider themselves to be in commerce, and if they are in commerce and they're doing business in a corporation, and the corporation is their corporation, and and their trucks and equipment are registered to the corporation, then they're pretty far into the de facto. Those people that aren't that far into it can have a driver's license like mine. I got mine because when they let me out of jail, they told me if I wanted to drive, I'd better get a license or I'd go back to jail for breaking probation. So I got a license, cost me $25, and I own it, and it's mine. And if they ask me to show them ID, I show them a paper one I carry in my wallet. And the reason for that is the Oregon law says that you will be in possession of this. If you're not in possession of it, that's breaking their Oregon statute. So give them a paper copy of it with continuous traveler and general delivery. And then the paper plate thing is if you decide you no longer want to have plates on your car because you're not in commerce, you're in trade, and you're not required to have one, then a paper plate on the back of your window is a lot less likely to get hassled than zero license plate or some kind of license plate that's going to draw attention. If they don't see a license plate and they see a paper plate in the window, usually they just go on about their business and don't care. And one of our members, he drove always with his passport and a paper plate. And he gave him the passport, and that's it. He didn't have anything else to give him. That's all I got. Do whatever you have to do. That's it. And they always gave the passport back to him and told him to go on his way. So I think I've just about covered everything that I wanted to cover. I hope I have enough time in this to make it worthwhile for everybody. And I yield. So then we notified all the same people that we were Article 1, Section 1. And as we're a republic and not a democracy, we don't need a majority to do anything. So we did that, and nobody rebutted us. So we are. When you do something as living testimony in the form of an affidavit of truth and it is without rebuttal, that's law, that's fact, that is it. You can't do better than that. So we did that. And then we said, how do we get rid of this system that we got going that is so corrupt, such as Article 7 amended in the Oregon Constitution was placed in the Constitution in 1910 by a guy named Frank Benson, who was Secretary of State and Governor at the same time, which is a constitutional impossibility, but he did it. And what it did was it rewrote Article 7 original and put it into amended. And when they did that, all the judges and everybody agreed to go with Article 7 amended, which negates our Constitution. It puts us into a corporation. So we haven't had law on Oregon since 1910. We've had color law. The judges, the legislature, all of the big shots in government, they all played pretend, and they deal with us in color of law.
They do not want to let go of this. They do not intend on losing here. And we do not intend giving it back to them.
And then the bullets started flying, and then he jumps out of the car, and he's got both his hands up.
And he got out of the car, and he had his hands in the air. He's like, just shoot me then. This is what you want, to shoot me. And they did. They shot him dead. With his hands in the air, and I saw it. I swear to God. He was just walking with his hands in the air. And they shot him. And they shot him dead, and then after he was down on the ground, they shot him 3 more times.